So the Las Vegas Raiders traded for Geno Smith earlier today, and over the last 3 hours, I've been watching a ton of tape of Geno Smith, and today we're going to talk about what this guy shows on tape. We're going to get into what this guy has shown us, why I think this is a huge upgrade for the Las Vegas Raiders, and why, as I watch more tape, I get more and more excited for Geno Smith. Will Geno Smith be able to get the Raiders over the top? We're going to find that out this season. But I think it's important to recognize one of the reasons why Geno Smith did not look good this past season. He had 21 touchdowns, but 15 interceptions. And a big reason as to why he had 15 interceptions this year and why he struggled a little bit, to me, was the fact that he had an offensive coordinator change coming into the 2024 season. And it wasn't just the offensive coordinator, it was the head coach, it was the entire coaching staff. Pete Carroll was with the Seahawks pretty much for 12, 13 years, up through the 2023 season. And in 2024, they went a completely different direction. But another thing is Geno Smith actually lost his offensive coordinator going into the 2024 season. I think that was the big difference here. Shane Waldron was Geno Smith's offensive coordinator in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Geno Smith wasn't starting in 2021, but he sat back, he learned, he developed under Shane Waldron as a backup quarterback to Russell Wilson. And when the Seahawks traded away Russell Wilson, they put Geno Smith in 2022. It was the second season he was under Shane Waldron. For the next 2 seasons, Geno Smith had 2 really, really good seasons. And the Seahawks made the playoffs in both years, and they had a lot of success. And I think when you watch Geno Smith, one of the things that sticks out right away is this guy does something that Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Jimmy G, and even Derek Carr to an extent all struggled to do. And that was to sense pressure, run away from the pressure, keep their eyes downfield, and hit their target. One of the things you're going to notice right away with Geno Smith is this guy's ability to sense pressure and step right, step left, climb the pocket, whether it's a blitz or his left guard gets beat. For Geno Smith to be able to sense that pressure, to see it, and be able to kind of get away from it is really, really impressive. And again, I think it's one of those things where when the Raiders had Gardner Minshew most recently, we always knew with Minshew, the guy had happy feet, right? He'd roll to the right whenever he was pressured. And it really, he didn't have a whole lot of success when he was pressured, right? He wasn't that good being able to get the ball downfield. I think Geno Smith definitely does a much better job than Gardner Minshew. And of course, I think the big difference with a guy like Geno Smith as opposed to Aiden O'Connell is the fact that this guy's fast and he's quick and he can actually run away from some of these other guys. We heard about Aiden O'Connell and Tom Brady yesterday. Aiden O'Connell's trying to get better. He's working, he's developing. But we always knew Aiden O'Connell was not going to be the quarterback this year. And Pete Carroll has, obviously kind of made that commitment as well as they were trying to bring in Matthew Stafford. But again, I think for the Raiders, you're upgrading that quarterback position. And I think Geno Smith is something I'm comfortable with for the Raiders as we kind of go forward. Now, sensing pressure, being able to kind of run away with it is obviously one of the factors. Now, keep in mind, when you're sensing pressure and your left guard gets beat and you step right, step left, that's a normal part of pocket presence, right? Pocket presence means you're not running to your right, running to your left. You're not making people move in the general senses. But Geno Smith can do that as well, right? Often referred to as the ability to create plays. Geno Smith does a really good job with that as well. There was one play specifically, it was a 3rd and 6. The left guard gets beat, the right tackle gets beat. Geno Smith should have probably been sacked on this 3rd down and they should have had to settle for a field goal. But Smith does a really nice job spinning out of there. He steps up through the pocket, and he throws a touchdown pass to DK Metcalf. 25-yard touchdown pass. Phenomenal job by the quarterback. But this is what Geno Smith does, right? He has that ability to create. And again, being able to sense pressure when you're blitzed, being able to step up in the pocket, step right, that's one aspect of being able to play the quarterback position. Having good pocket presence, right, is one aspect of the quarterback position. But then having that ability to create, run away from people is a whole nother element. And to me, Geno Smith can do both of it really, really well. Now, obviously, one of the things we're going to have to see what Geno Smith does this season is how does he fit in that Chip Kelly scheme and system? Right, Chip Kelly, historically speaking, runs a lot of 4-5 wide receivers. They run a lot of 5-man sets. Geno Smith obviously felt a lot more comfortable running that type of scheme and system under Shane Waldron than most recently when he was put under shotgun, multiple tight ends and those type of things. So we'll see if Chip Kelly and Geno Smith click well together. Something tells me they will, right? Another thing I noticed with Geno Smith, he did a really nice job at is being able to freeze the safety with his eyes. There was one play specifically that really stood out to me. Geno Smith took the ball, he looked to his left, he fake like he was going to throw some sort of quick pass to the running back. The safety at the top, it looks like it's cover 4, froze just a little bit. And that gave Geno Smith just enough time where he was willing to throw the ball to DK Metcalf in the back right of the end zone. To me, that processing, right, being able to look left, make the safeties go that way, and then to come back right and throw a touchdown pass, that's elite vision. That's elite movement with your eyes, right? And I know, me saying this is pretty basic stuff to say it, but is a lot harder for quarterbacks to actually do, right? Gardner Minshew might look to the left and, he has happy feet and we know he's going to come back to the right. He just doesn't sell it the same way. Geno Smith is a lot more calm and collective where he doesn't panic. He doesn't show happy feet. He looks left. And it looks like he might actually go that way only for him to come back to the right? Geno Smith just does it a lot better than where, Gardner Minshew kind of was last year for the Raiders. And again, huge upgrade for the Las Vegas Raiders in that quarterback room. One of the things we knew coming into the season was the Raiders wanted to compete and they wanted to actually have success this season and they wanted to win, right? Like they didn't want to go into the season with the rookie quarterback and say we're building for the long term, right? They didn't want that mindset and that approach. And by going in with a rookie quarterback, that's exactly what you'd be doing essentially, right? And the Raiders decided we're not going down this path. Instead, we're going to go the veteran quarterback route. They went after Matthew Stafford. That didn't work out. They quickly shifted to Geno Smith. Now, it is important to also note that Geno Smith does want a contract extension. So right now, he's going to count $25 million against the cap for 2025. The Raiders will have to pay him that no matter what. And then they'll have to extend him, past that. So if he gets a 2-year contract, right, 2 extra years, 3 total years, it'll be $25 million this year. And then most likely it'll be somewhere between 40 and 45 million over the next 2 years, each of the next 2 years. That's what the report is by Deanna Rossini. Apparently that was the major factor as to why Geno Smith did not re-sign with the Seahawks or why he didn't stay with the Seahawks. The Seahawks only wanted to pay him 35 million and he did not want that. He wanted to be between 40 and 45 million. So some people are going to say the value of this is great for the Raiders. That value is only this season, right? He's going to get an extension and I wouldn't be surprised if that extension comes, as soon as the next week, right? I would not be surprised if Geno Smith gets a new contract in the next week. It'll probably be like 2 or 3 years between 80 to 120 million, depending on the years. I think it'll be right about between 40 and 45, which is okay, right? Because he is under contract this year for 25 million. And again, that means you can kind of, mess around with those cap hits a little bit, right? You take the 25 million this year and you bump that up to 38 million, right? That saves you 13 million over the next 2 years. Right, so it does make it a little bit easier for the Raiders in terms of the cap hits. But getting back a little bit to Geno Smith, or really getting into what this guy has shown us, one of the things that I like with Geno Smith as well is not that the Raiders are going to run a lot of read options with Geno Smith. All right, he's 35 years old. He's not going to run a lot of read options, but he can run with the football, right? He can run read options, and he will keep that backside defensive end. He will keep that guy honest, right? If the Raiders are in shotgun and they're running zone to the left or to the right, the defensive end on the same side as the running back, right, which would be the backside defensive end, instead of crashing and just chasing the running back, that guy has to make sure Geno Smith hands the football off, right? Like, for example, when Aiden O'Connell was back there, and I use Aiden because he's obviously not very fast. When Aiden O'Connell was back there, he doesn't hold that defensive end the way Geno Smith will. Because if that defensive end crashes once, twice, on that third play, Geno Smith's going to pull the football and he'll take off running. So you got to respect Geno Smith's legs. So that'll be another element that he'll kind of bring to the Raiders. I also think Geno Smith's very smart. He's very efficient with the football. Run pass options will be another element that Geno Smith will be able to do. Now, I do think Gardner Minshew did a pretty good job as well with the run pass option. As did Aiden O'Connell. I think Aiden O'Connell's pretty sharp as well. But that'll just be another part of this game. And we're going to run a lot of run pass options with Geno Smith, right? There's going to be a lot of plays in which it might not be as much as what Luke Getsy kind of wanted with his offense, but we're going to run a lot of those type of plays. There's going to be a lot of screen plays. There's going to be a lot of, running back screens, wide receiver screens, tight end screens, right? We're going to run a lot of those quick passes. There's going to be a lot of different options, type of routes and those type of things within this offense, right? And I think that's something you have to do for Geno Smith. Again, I really, really like what the Raiders bringing in. Geno Smith is not perfect, and he does have to play within the scheme and system. He did have some really bad passes this past season, and it'd be unbiased of me not to point that out. So I want to go ahead and just point it out really quickly. I did look at the 15 interceptions he had this past season. There were probably 3 interceptions that hit the wide receiver in the hands, and the wide receiver just dropped the pass, right? And it ended up being an interception. So I'd say at least 3 interceptions should not have been interceptions. But then there were some that were really, really, really bad, right? And I'm not sure if, Geno Smith felt like, hey, we need to really score a touchdown, because that is the case in at least one of these games. You take this play here against the Rams. Geno Smith's trying to create, and he's trying to get his wide receiver the ball, but he kind of just throws it up like to an area, right? And it doesn't make sense for him to make this pass. And of course, there's no wide receiver actually there. Maybe he was trying to hit the wide receiver at the top. Didn't work out. And just like that, the 49ers get an interception. Against the Rams, he had a really, really bad pick 6. This one also did not make sense to me. I understand it. Actually, this one's a little bit different, right? So the thing with this one is Geno Smith did not think the cornerback on that side would run after the football, or he just did not see this guy, right? And the fact that he just kind of threw this up, to me, that's a bad play. That's not something you can do. But I will also say this, sometimes when you have bad coaching, and I do think the Seahawks on the offensive side were a bad coach team. If you have bad coaching on the offensive side, you're going to struggle as a quarterback. There's just no way around it. We saw Josh Allen struggle for years, right? After Brian Daboll ended up taking the job with the Giants, he struggled for like 2 years. I shouldn't say struggle, but he didn't look the same, right? And I think as a quarterback, to have success, you got to have a good offensive coordinator. And I think as the Raiders kind of go forward with Geno Smith, I do actually think Chip Kelly gives you some potential to have success with Geno Smith. I think he runs a good offensive scheme and structure, so we'll see what ends up happening. I also would not be surprised if the Raiders still draft a quarterback to develop. I think Chip Kelly really, really likes Will Howard. I think John Spytek kind of told us that he's a quarterback that they really liked as well. And we're not going to take him with the 6th overall pick. But I do think the Raiders can still double up and bring in another quarterback to develop. I think Chip Kelly will be here for at least 2 seasons, given the Raiders have success. So we'll see what ends up happening, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.